Hello, Dulcie. There you are. Welcome, everybody, to Astrology Victoria, as usual, under the Astro Blanket. And today, what are we discussing, Dulcie, today?
We are very seriously discussing Capricorn today.
Oh, Dulcie, did you actually prepare the presentation, the PowerPoint, and the words of the assignments that I told you to?
No, I'm sorry. I forgot. My dog peed on it.
Oh my God, Dulcie, I think I'm going to fire you. I mean, you're fired.
No.
Don't cry, Dulcie. This is serious. We're making professional stuff here. You cannot just show up and cry and do that. Like, no, you can't get your homework done. I'm sorry. Okay, people, we just have to start this over again without Dulcie because she just clearly did not do what she was supposed to do.
Always so strict. It's so annoying.
Oh, Dulcie, it's for the better. You understand? Hard work pays off. If we do this right, we're going to have like 3 million followers. If it's like done like half-assed, oh my gosh, that word. Sorry about that. If it's done.
I saw you try and stop.
Oh darn. Anyway, so yeah,
okay,
back
we
to.
all have our flaws. No biggie. I'm rehired.
No biggie. You're rehired. Yay! Okay, Dulcie, but you'll do it right this time. Okay, promise me.
Right,
I'll be taking note.
Okay.
All right, people. So back to our Capricorn.
So who are we? We are Dulcie and
Tatiana. With you guys today. So let's go into the basics of our Capricorn. So Dulcie, what are the basics of our archetype for today?
Yeah, so we have Capricorn, which is feminine because it is an earth sign, and it is also cardinal, and the ruler is Saturn. Those are the basics.
Okay, so a lot to discuss about these basics. Why? Because this is a very complex sign in the interplay of the polarities of the masculine and the feminine energies within the sign itself, because it's an earth sign and it's feminine. But you would think, but Capricorn is associated with the father and the directive energies of the father, and you go like, yeah, how is it then feminine? And it is very interesting to know that all earth signs relate to what's physical. So air signs is the mental body, and fire signs, water signs are the emotional body. Fire signs, it's like the ignition of drive, and the earth signs correspond to the physical body. And anything that's grounded, that is on this earth, literally grounded, that's the term for any of the earth signs. There's a realistic nature to it of this particular dimension. And the feminine within that earth sign, it's more of an internal sense. You know, we come from Sagittarius, this fire outside reaching to horizons. And as time, and this is like corresponding to the ninth house, then as we go into the 10th house of the zodiac, and we are at the highest point in the sky, the midheaven, this is the highest point of the zodiac. And it's also when winter begins. So there's like a internal sense again, and this is where the blends of this very interesting sign come into interplay, because it's the blending of the earth grounded nature of what we are here to do, with this winter feel of internalization of energy through the feminine principle of going back inwards. And it's a cardinal sign, so it's a sign that initiates and has a lot of drive to initiate something. So that blend, it's almost like the feminine energy within, it's an internal sense of duty, of responsibility in the world. It's an internal sense of I have to do something in this world, to leave something tangible in the world. That is why it corresponds to that highest point, the midheaven, where we have come from the deepest roots of Cancer, where we come from literally, and as we evolve through the zodiac, boom, once we hit the midheaven, is what am I here to do? To leave something tangible. But it comes from that inner sense of the feminine, principle of self-reflection, self-authority, self-initiatory quest for something that has a meaning. And that's why the Capricorn has this desire to achieve and do something in the world. So that's the interplay between the three. And would you like to then say something about this or our ruler Saturn?
So just kind of looking at that difference between cardinal versus feminine. So when you think of Aries, which is cardinal and masculine, it's very outward oriented. So it has that initiation aspect to it with cardinal, and it also has that masculine energy of outward drive. So I think you kind of summarized that. It has that initiative aspect to it with Capricorn as a cardinal sign, but it also has that inner focus rather than outward focus, motivated by internal reward and internal drive rather than external drive, and internally focused rather than externally focused. So feeling that inner drive to be successful, and working the steps to kind of put that into form with the earth aspect, rather than Aries might be just going for it rather than thinking through the process. Okay, and then with Saturn kind of rules obstacles, limitations, and time, restriction, discipline, and responsibility. So the Capricorn energy gets all of these aspects. So it's an energy that's very aware of time, aware of limitations, and then works within those restrictions to make its way to the top. Yeah.
Yes, with the Capricorn energy and with Saturn being the ruler, like, yes, there's no time for stopping and smelling the roses, basically. Like, we gotta get to it, and that's it. And it might feel burdensome, it might feel difficult, but there's also that reward. And that's Saturn's gifts usually come with, like, hard work pays off. And if we see it like that, we get the best of Saturn. And that's why in this Capricorn energy, we can have that. But then we'll see later as we develop our presentation how also it can become extremely restrictive and then depressing. So that's where we don't want to go. So anyway, I'm going to share the image that I created for this archetype. It's really symbolic. So we're going to go through the whole symbolism of this image. Okay, so Dulcie, here is the image I created. And I always say, because I created these images, I am an artist. It's all seen through my lens and my interpretation of my studies and how I perceive the energy. So Dulcie, what do you see and what do you perceive in this image?
Yeah, so I see the hourglass there. So being very aware of time and that time is limited. So we have a given amount of time and we can work within that structure. And so time management, I guess, would be one of the words we could use for a Capricorn, just very aware of that and working according to a certain time. And then we have the trees. So the trees of different seasons, so also different stages of time, and we discussed the difference between natural time that comes about just naturally, just by living on this earth and living in this universe, it is a natural kind of phenomenon on this planet, that we don't have any control over. It just happens. Versus the more man-made time, and we've decided how to divide up minutes and hours and how to organize our day based on this time. So
Day, weeks, months, years, all
yeah,
down to how to get these cycles organized and structured
yeah, structure.
into a mental structure that could function efficiently.
Yeah. So we see the mountains there. They're kind of cold and icy and very tall with the goat right at the top. So this Capricornian goat has worked its way very slowly and diligently to the top, and has probably gone through a lot of hardship, but has been determined through it. It's not a quick ascension to the top. It's a very slow and steady and methodical and determined ascension. We see the skyscrapers there down at the bottom. Also very structured images. Usually skyscrapers are filled with offices and people in suits and people who are doing their work and getting done what needs to be done. To me, this has a kind of Toronto feel to it with the water nearby, the lake nearby, and all the skyscrapers.
It is a central business district for sure.
I mean, to me personally, Toronto has that kind of like cold Capricorn feeling of, yeah, just a lot of structures. You stand in the middle and you look around and it's just this clear,
and they're so tall,
very tall.
Yeah, you're like, oh, wow.
Yeah, but then you get to the water, you get to the lake nearby, and you feel like you're in a completely different world. So I don't know, there's that aspect too, because Capricorn incorporates the water element. So, or the water aspect with the sea goat. So
yeah, the sea goat.
yeah,
that's something that, of course, let's go back to basics. What is a Capricorn? A Capricorn is a mythical creature. It's a sea goat. That's what a Capricorn is, if you didn't know. So it is depicted very clearly. A sea goat is a mythical animal that has half of the body is a goat and the other half is a fishtail. And there is a myth to it. Again, the myths of Capricorn, I'm not very sure. Like, there's a lot of confusion around exactly how this came about. There's a few myths around it, but the one that I kind of think makes more sense with the archetype is the myth of Prickis. There's the sea goat that was created, I think, by Kronos. So Kronos is also Saturn. And the sea goat creature lived in the ocean and had a lot of children. So he was the father of all the little sea goats, all happy in the ocean. They were super smart. They were amazingly smart. And then those little sea goats started using their paws, like to get out, and their legs, and they got out of the water, and then they started being on land. And once they were on land, they stayed really, they began losing their fishtail, and then they became goats. And they kind of lost their intelligence and were like goats. And then they're like, going up mountains. And, like, we always wonder, like, what are those goats doing up there in the highest mountain, perched up like this?
On these tiny little ledges. What are you doing up there?
And they're like, what are you doing up there? Like, looking for food, I guess. But it's just interesting to see how in the myth they come from this water, they go on land, and they lose their intelligence. So the father, Prickis, was so desperate to see that his children were being like dumb goats, that he reversed time and had the goats go back into the water when they were like little. And then he did this over and over again, and each time, like, they would always just leave. And then so he gave up. And then he was the only lonely sea goat left, very sad and depressed. So I think Cronus is in the stars as the constellation of Capricorn. So that's one part of the myth. The other part of the myth is that because Cronus would eat all his children, and when Zeus was born, the mom wanted to protect it, so she took him to be nursed by uh, uh, and what's the name again? I forget the names. I don't have everything in front of me. Google has it. And Anthea, I think Anthea was her name, and she was kind of like a goat person, very nurturing, or a goat creature, and nursed Zeus, and then he was very grateful for that, and then he gave, in honor of his mother goat, a Capricorn constellation. But again, those are just two different versions of the myths. And the reason why I'm bringing up the myths, so we're bringing up the myths of Capricorn here, is because of the Capricorn being the myth itself. So I think the Pricus myth is kind of pretty cool because it does illustrate that desire of going from the depths of water, which for me is also, and this is personal, is the Cancer energy of the axis. When we covered Cancer, and if you have not seen that video, go back and watch it. It's the foundations, it's the roots, it's where we come from, it's where this is the sense of safety in ourselves, in our beingness. But once we go to Capricorn, it's the opposite. It's the opposite end. It's up in the midhaven. So it's like the fruition of what we become in the world. So there's this strive to leave the nursing, like to leave your roots to become something. It's almost like the hero's journey. You just go. And in the Capricorn, there's that I achieved, I became something. And that's why that goat is just up there all the way to the top. It takes time, it takes effort. And in this image, I kind of created that interplay between the man-made and the natural law of the Capricorn energy, which even those tall trees are growing form. And Saturn rules the bones and the skin and the structure of form without shapes and forms. Well, these is just atoms flying and little energy electrons and quarks and quantum particles floating, and that's it. So you don't even exist. I don't exist. Saturn, in the realm of the psyche, is in charge of making sure everything has a form. So that's why the Capricorn that is ruled by Saturn has this structural nature to it. And us humans, and not only humans, the natural world has this feel of like everything has a form, a shape, a structure. And I even put in like the sky having that kind of matrix feel, because everything is seen through the lens of a structured, organized world or organized reality.
Yeah, the vast open sky still has some structure to it.
So even that, like everything could be seen as like there's a world created within a world, or worlds within worlds within worlds that are just structures on structures on structures and that interplay between the natural world or the natural cycles of time and structure of time and the man-made structures of time and ideas of success. So maybe for a tree, the idea of success is to reach the highest potential, to reach the sun so it can nurture itself more, right? So those tall trees just rise up. And the man-made portion of it is like, so how can I rise to the top to leave something in society? Because it's the hard work and like, let's just keep going and doing this. And then we create these big structures like the skyscrapers that are very representative of this energy of success. I'm reaching the top and I'm determined and I'm like not stopping at anything. No time to smell roses, no time for crying, no time for anything. So it can be cold. And again, it's the cold of winter. But, and I imagine, like, those armies that had to, in order to conquer whatever they were conquering, they just went through the, I don't know, like Napoleon's army through Siberia, like it's just like we'll just stop at nothing. There's this like, oh, drive. And again, it's not like in the Mars sense of drive, it's in an inner drive of there's something to be done. So even if I'm gonna have to go through the snow and suffer through it, I'll just do it because there's something at the other end of it. There's a reward. And the reward, again, and it's all of this is such a man-made construct of what are our rewards, like the rat race reward. I even asked myself that question, but the energy itself has that feel of inner drive, inner sense of duty, inner sense of responsibility, and inner sense of having to become something great in the world and impact society and the structures of society, how society functions. So that's a little bit of the Capricornian vibe that is in this image. So anything else about that, Dulcie?
I think we covered, yeah, most of what I see here. Just the tallness of everything too, I
The
think.
tallness.
The trees, the buildings, the mountains, just that kind of that drive to go upward.
Yeah. So in this respect, then we can go into the words that mostly would define the positive aspects of the Capricorn energy, and then we'll go into the shadow aspects or more negative aspects. So Dulcie, what are the words you have today?
So some of the words I have are determined, dutiful, decisive. I'll add this one in. So a desire for success, money, status, position, authority, and security. Practical. And we decided the shorter term for this would be strategic, but I wrote the longer form, so able to see steps to success that others might not see. So yeah, just able to see a path to success.
And to a long-term goal, something that's really far and big and it's just really out there, and it's like it's focused. It's so focused on those goals. It's
focus on that
goal oriented.
and breaks it down into those tiny steps.
Yeah.
And self-parenting, that's the Saturn aspect of it. Goal-oriented, dependable, completes tasks, self-sufficient, and the last one I had was so there's this psychological study that was done on children to determine how successful they might be later on in life, and they put, I believe it was marshmallows, they put, or maybe a cookie or something, but I'll just go with marshmallow. And so they put the marshmallow in front of the child, and they told the child, if you wait 10 minutes or whatever, we will give you 3 marshmallows instead of just 1. And the children that ate the marshmallow right up, they were later, less successful in life. Whatever standards they were using, I don't know, I don't remember, but they were determined to be less successful later in life, or less organized or something. And the children that waited, they would receive 3 marshmallows instead of 1 later, and later in life that had, helpful, that quality was helpful in their life for being able to have success, to kind of, be patient and work through difficulties, and maybe not go for the immediate reward right away, but to wait out for the better reward later on. So the Capricorn person is the one who will wait, however long it takes for the better reward.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. I also have serious, committed, It's the achiever, dedicated. I think we said that. Realistic. The Capricorn person will always weigh out like, okay, that's unrealistic. Let's just not go there because they're so grounded. Structured. So definitely the steps to something happening within a set structure. Stoic. And the Stoic it's in the positive traits because Stoic just means that somebody can hold their emotional nature when in times of a crisis, for instance, or when there's a lot of stress or big things that need to be done. The Stoicism allows for that cold-headed, level-headed energy to get things done. Otherwise, imagine nothing would ever get done. Like seriously, who would just be like woohoo, and then there's no food, there's nothing. Like we didn't do anything. So that Stoicism is kind of that apparent coldness that needs to be there in order for things to be efficiently done. And I have disciplined. Definitely, discipline is a big thing with Capricorn energy. And like anything, discipline pays off. You go to the gym once to lose weight, well, that's not going to do much. But you go for a few months and you do it with discipline, then you'll see the results. That's absolutely the Capricorn energy at work. I have from our nouns, I have the businessman. So yeah, dudes in suits or dudettes in sudettes. It's the authority. So that's why a lot of the times we will see, politicians or even military or businessmen. Military would be more if there's a strong Mars component, but it could be that it's up there. It's the authority. It's the father, and the father is not just the masculine father; it's the masculine energy. Because you could have a mother that's very masculine, meaning that it's the parent that shows the way towards how the world works. Usually the feminine energy within a parent is the nurturing that keeps it close, that keeps it emotional nurturing. Whereas the father is the one that says, look, this is the world and there's something that you need to learn about this world. And this is the way to success in the world, so you don't just die. This is the way to survival. And the father only wants the best for the child. But the father, again, is the masculine energy. It could be a mother with a strong masculine energy. So that's why we equate the Capricorn energy to the father archetype. But again, it's the masculine archetype of success in the world, of being somebody, of having getting your bearings in the world and doing something with it to, survive. Hey. And then there is the elder. The elder, again, because Saturn rules time and Capricorn has this long, progression of getting to the top. The elder is represented as the wise, is the wisdom gained through all that long process. And the elder held this wisdom. And that's why the elder can seem sometimes a little bit like, this is the way things should be done. Because there's a wisdom to having gone through a long process, long, hard process that, maybe the Aries energy that's like, yes, let's do this and that. It's a little bit immature, The elder will go like, whoa, slow down. Look, there's a process to things. The flower just doesn't pop overnight, It's like the seed. You plant the seed, and this flower, this little seed needs to grow roots, and then from the roots, it needs to really go up the earth. And then once it sees the sun, it's like, it starts growing, and then finally flowers, and all of that is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. Mm-hmm. So that's a little bit that kind of wisdom that is seen with the Capricorn as the elder. And then the hermit. The hermit is linked also to that self-reflective energy that can be, I can just be on my own and I can do things on my own because I can. you know, it's like the possibility of not needing, not being needy. It's like the Capricorn energy can be so sufficient. Um, so that's why the Hermit is that internal state of self-sufficiency, and that it's at peace. That's why all this is very positive aspects of Capricorn. And as the strategist, like we said, the strategist just knows how to get the job done, no matter how big, how far, how long. It knows strategy. That's why we see that a lot of, again, in the military or authority, or where there's a lot of authority, or even businesses like the manager, or some like a CFO or a CEO, CEO would kind of know like, oh, all of this is what needs to get done, and then they can get everybody in line to do that. It's the boss, it's the quintessential boss, and we need leaders. It's the leader, and the leaders are here like in the positive way. The Capricorn energy that leads the way. It's because it has that maturity and that sense of responsibility, knowing that it's going to be for the better of everybody. Mm-hmm. That's where the energy is really positive. Now, in the more shadow side of the Capricorn, Dulcie, what do we have in the shadow side of Capricorn?
So I have controlling, binary thinking. So just focused on binary. What's the word? A proponent of binary thinking? A
kind of narrow-minded it could be. Binary thinking is like black or white.
That's the word. Sorry. Yeah.
What's the word?
Prone to binary thinking.
Prone to binary thinking. This is right, this is wrong. Exactly. That's the end.
Yeah. So prone to binary thinking, closed-minded, critical, power hungry, materialistic, proud, and private, secretive, aloof.
Yeah, I think that like the private and secretive, it's not in the Scorpio way. Where would the secretive, how would you illustrate the secretive of a Capricorn?
Just more mysterious. Perhaps that's the feminine side, like the internal side. But it's like there's just an aspect that people don't get to see.
It's like they hide the emotional side. I think that's what it is. Is they're more reserved? I think it's reserved with their emotions, so you wouldn't necessarily know, because they're so focused on getting the thing done that the emotional nature gets completely suppressed. And
definitely not wearing their heart on their sleeve. So
exactly. So there's almost like that I think that secretive equates a little bit with insensitive. Like, I don't feel anything, but in reality they do. Mm-hmm. It's just somewhere there, and it's kept secret or hidden almost, because the task at hand is more important than anything else. So I also have oppressive, grimsome. It can be really like pessimistic as well, demanding, like you have to do this, and this is wrong, this is right, and strict. I think strict is one of the most like Saturnian. It's like, it's just like this. It's so inflexible that it just can become extremely oppressive. Is that feel of like, oh my gosh, like, let me just do something, get out of this boundary. You can't get out of the boundary. So when in the shadow side, it just becomes so rigid that there's no room for breathing. My goodness. Whew. I'm stressed now, Dulcie, out of this strictness. Cranky. So, like, all cranky. Insensitive, like I said, it's like there's no room for emotions. I'm sorry. So no matter how much you cry and plead, no, it's no. The answer is still no. So there's no room for like negotiation with the shadow side of the Capricorn. And so it could be the tyrant, literally the tyrant, and the power hungry person is like, when it goes to the extreme of the negative, it could feel like there's nothing you can do against it. And I wanted to actually, I saw a movie yesterday called the Rose Island that I would recommend you see. It's a very good illustration of a Saturnian energy, of like this Capricorn seriousness of governments, because Capricorn also is where government exists, and in this movie, I will not do the spoiler, but it's basically a freedom seeker person who builds an island off the shores of Italy. It's based on a true story, and this is in the the early 70s, late 60s discussion. But what's interesting is to see the interplay of the very structured government against the little freedom seeker, and how harsh that can be, and that the last word is given by that weight of the law, is the weight of the. And it's interesting because Capricorn would rule internal law. Like I say, I rule myself, I am my own authority, out of a sense of duty towards the good of everything. That would be like the positive quality of that Capricorn, is like, this duty is necessary for all, for society. Saturn it's a social planet, so it does rule how we behave in society. It's like the marshmallow experiment. There's an inner sense of like, no, I'm going to do this out of my duty. And when it goes into its shadow side, the sense of duty becomes power, like, oh, I have the power, I am the one at the top, so what can I do? Squeeze, because I have the power, I know what's right, and I'm going to enforce it. Wow. And that's when it can become extremely dangerous. That archetype taken to its extremes could be so cold, so dismissive, and whoa. So you see, it's what it is. The energy has that. And as a little side note into our anecdotes, well, the biggest anecdote is this passage of 2020 with the conjunction of Pluto and Saturn in Capricorn with Jupiter, and that completely is seeing the structures that we've built over time of government, of pyramidal structures, the Capricornian way. Pluto has been in Capricorn for many years already, and it's starting to go, and Saturn being in its strongest position, being in Capricorn. We've seen this all around 2020, how we're having to see the structures we have built, and we're having to observe them closely and rethink these very Capricornian ways of the rat race. Like, where has it taken us? We're literally destroying the earth. That's where it took the amount of desire for more power, more status, more success, more corporations, more and more, until we lost complete sight of the natural energy of that Capricorn. And now we're having to face that. I think that's, of course, my take on this. And what do you think, Dulcie, about our little anecdote of our very gruesome 2020, if we want to see it that way?
Yeah, we're seeing these structures that we've built and have been looking to kind of dissolve and fall away, and do so in a very drastic way. It's not a smooth transition. We've reached our limit of what this structure can hold. There's no more bending room. It's just going to break now. So yeah, it's an interesting time to be a part of. Definitely anxiety inducing. A lot of us have anxiety when we didn't before. And it's, yeah, just that unknown that we're now facing. But we're going to start seeing it kind of be rebuilt. So that'll be interesting to watch.
And when we touch on Aquarius, which will be our next video, we're gonna see what we're facing in the future. Not that we're necessarily leaving all of Capricorn behind, but we kind of are, because the South Node, when it went through that conjunction, it was in the South Node in Capricorn. While all of that was happening, is almost saying it's time to let these structures that we've built go, these Capricornian structures that only benefit the few at the top. That is a lot of what we've seen, and that's how it has played out in our world, in reality. And this is why I believe that astrology has such wisdom, because seeing the cycles and understanding the archetype of how and why it works is what really gives us that feel of understanding how we are acting all these out as humans. So so
the physical structures that we're seeing, things like universities and schools are transforming to having more of an online presence. So
and we'll see that in Aquarius when we cover that next video. Dulcie, do you know any Capricorn people or anybody with strong Capricorn energy?
I know
for a little Capricorn anecdote.
Yeah, so one individual has a lot of Capricorn energy and is a Capricorn rising, and this person has that inner sense of duty, not only to work but to family and to friends. So that duty expands to multiple aspects of life. So when it's the work hours, he is working. He is diligently working and getting the work done, and just is able to be efficient in it, and always able to focus on work. And then that sense of family duty comes as well. So making sure that he's always contacting members of family and staying in touch and organizing events together, making sure that everybody has time to spend together, and keeping in contact with friends. And it's that, that inner motivation, that inner drive to always be maintaining those structures.
Also, like the Capricorn people tend to be very traditional and conservative, unless of course there's a lot of other planets. But the raw Capricorn energy is traditional. It values tradition, and is hard to change that. It just stays with what's traditional, what's been said for however long, and it just aims to maintain those traditions no matter what. I do have a friend, and it's pretty interesting because he's a Capricorn rising. He's a Cancer sun, so it's an interesting thing because he's like the boss of a huge project here in Victoria. They're building this huge thing at UVic, which is a huge building. He's always been like the manager of building and constructions and huge, construction projects. It's very interesting to see that from this Capricorn rising. And he's in charge of this humongous project at the university. They're building a huge building, and he says that's the project that I've been dreaming all of my life. And he's like 70 years old, and he's gotten to the freaking top. And now he's like, that's my last job. That's it. Like he's almost like a sense of accomplishment, and it's the hugest job, and he's the manager of it. And he's very interesting because he's the kindest man, like Cancer, right? But this Capricorn, and he's so stoic. He can be in the midst of all these problems that come with a huge project like big constructions, and he's like super level-headed, cold, but such a nice boss, because he does have that sense of of, of being kind to others and nurturing. So he's a great boss, and I'm kind of really proud of him, because when I see the things these people can achieve, like these huge things, it's like whoa. So yeah, that's Capricorn. And my sister is a Capricorn, and she definitely is so traditional, like, her values, and very hardworking, also extremely generous, um, and yeah, that's like lovely to see that she's always been very serious and quiet. Like, I was the crazy one, and she was the most like serious, and and for my own little personal anecdote, I do not have any Capricorn planets. I do have a bunch of planets in the 10th house. And like we said, the 10th house is where the midheaven is. And all my Virgo planets are boom, smack in that 10th house, including Saturn. So as much as I don't get the Capricorn energy, I get the feel of the energy of Saturn and the 10th house, which is very similar to the Capricorn when it comes to professional achievement. And I was telling Dulcie that, oh my gosh, I've always, even since I was a child, I felt I was the one doing all the homework. I wanted to, I was the overachiever out of getting, I don't know why, I just needed to be responsible. I had that inner drive for making my homework and getting A's. I was a straight A student, always doing more than I needed, always with that sense that I need to do something big in the world or something. And I wonder, like, people that don't do big things in the world, like what I don't get it. Don't they have like a big drive? And then I realized when I started doing astrology, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. I've always had this big inner drive to just work, of course, the Virgo planets, but it's like to do something that's gonna last long. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, this video will last for the next at least 1,000 years. What do you think, Dulcie? And then this knowledge will be passed on even when I'm long gone. How about that, Dulcie?
Forever.
Does that sound good as a little story of the 10th house Capricorn energy?
It does, yeah. Yeah. Yes, it definitely, if you're equating the 10th house with Capricorn, yeah, that is very in line with that.
Yeah. So, well, those are the little stories. So
I have one more thing. I have a friend. So he is also an astrologer. His name is Spencer Michaud, and he is frequently talking about the need to Saturn up. And
Saturn yourself up.
It's very in line with this video. So he works every week to put out his weekly podcasts and does the due diligence and the weekly work. And that's very Saturnian, just putting in the time for the long-term gain, just diligently working every day to produce something of value. And that's, that Saturn up quality.
Yeah, it's funny because yes, the Saturn up quality, I like I said, I've always had it, having Saturn in my 10th house. And it's funny because as a dancer, dancing is one of the, it's a discipline. And I did classical ballet for, ever. I still do it. So I began at age 3. So it's been almost 30 plus years of ballet dancing. And it looks so graceful and so beautiful, right? But oh my gosh, do you have to Saturn up? Because it's so precise. Ballet, of all forms of dance, for me, it's precise. It's the lines. The lines are perfect. There's a training of your muscle, and it's so you need so much strength and to hold your legs up, to do things perfect. It's not like contemporary dance, that is like flowing and different. No, this is so structured. So for me, classical ballet, and I was trained in it, and I realized how military that could be. You're at the bar and all these kids doing everything like in line, all these exercises, and it's so precise to the music. It's the strictest, it's a very Saturn up thing. But guess what? Thanks to that technique, because it's the hardest technique you could probably do, is that classical ballet training. Oh my gosh, now the freedom I have like 35 years later to just dance however I want, wherever, because my muscles know how to do it. I've conquered it. I've mastered it. And we forgot to say something with like the Capricorn energy and the Saturn. There's elements of mastery. That is the master of the zodiac, is Capricorn, because it's the one that will put the time in to be the best at ... It's the master. So now I'm very happy to see that after all these years of that discipline, that I have mastered it to a certain level. Of course, there's always more to master, but it does feel great to say, well, now I can show you the way and teach you because I have mastered it. And not because like, oh, I just did it once and I can do it. No, it's like you can actually say, I put in the 10,000 hours. So that's a very rewarding sense of the Saturn Capricornian energy. It's the master.
And so yeah, the one more thing also about Saturn is that in ancient times it was the most distant planet that we could see with our eyes. So it's representing kind of that boundary between us. This was something that my teacher Chuta Baba had said frequently. It represents that boundary between us, our world, and the ethers, whatever is beyond there. So it is that limiting boundary, but it's also, once you pass that boundary, there's
there's so much more.
Yeah. So it's a kind of a mix between
it's almost the illusion of the Maya, right? It's that illusion of that matrix that we have created with those boundaries of time, the boundaries of, and then we'll see that when we cover Aquarius and having also Uranus in the mix, we'll understand that once we break through the ceiling of those perceptions of time or structure, there's so much more. But the Capricorn has that beauty of having us within a world that's tangible, and that makes sense, at least in this reality. So well, that's that, my dear Dulcie, isn't it? So people, if you have lots of Capricorn planets, that's called a stellium, or your Capricorn sun or moon or rising, we would love to hear your stories of how your Capricorn shows up in your life. We'd love to read your comments. And the last thing, but not least, remember that I'm creating these images with a lot of love and hard work, hard Saturnian work, and now I've put them up in some beautiful products. So if you will put the description down below, if you'd like to have these images in either a card or a mug or whatever, you can just get this, your little Capricorn, and then support the artist. It's a website that supports artists, so that will be like really awesome. That's also how we help support all this work. So that's it. Are we wrapping it up, Dulcie?
We sure are, yeah.
Was it professional enough, our presentation?
I believe so. Yeah.
It was. All right. See you very soon, guys. See you very soon, my Dulcie. And let's wrap it up.
You want to stop sharing? Okay.
Oh, I forgot to stop to share. Yeah. Oh, grab. It's okay.
That's okay.
Yeah. Let's wrap it up. Beep, 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 bye-bye. See you very soon.